Good morning. It's my pleasure to introduce our visionary speaker, Eric Wood. Eric is a former NFL offensive lineman who played his entire 9-year career with the Buffalo Bills. He was selected in the first round, 2000, for the NFL draft by the Bills, which is a huge achievement for something. Entered college
Make Jim lose like $1 million
scholarship. Beginning his career as a guard, Eric was moved to a center in 2011, where he would continue to play the majority of his career at that position with the Bills. In 2015, Eric, as a starting center, was named to the Pro Bowl, one of his proudest professional accomplishments. And that same year, in recognition of his community involvement and philanthropic efforts, Wood was named as Buffalo's finalist for the 2015 Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award. Making the playoffs in 2017 with the Bills and ending their playoff drought serves as one of his most memorable moments in his NFL career. Eric played his entire 9-season NFL career for the Bills before he had an unexpected spinal injury that ultimately ended his on-field career in 2018, which with much left to offer the sport, he still stays involved with football as a commentator for the Buffalo Bills radio network, and that's something he still does to this day. He also has spent time as a sports columnist for The Athletic and has called games for the major networks, Fox, ESPN, ACC Network, and CBS. Now, with a clear direction for what he would like to do in his post-career, Eric spends the majority of his time working on his weekly podcast and sharing his book, Tackle What's Next. On the show, he focuses on conducting interviews that impact and inspire by speaking with people who offer advice on how to lead a more effective and impactful life. Eric had these people who had all faced a pivot point or a moment of their own and made it work out for them. Tackle What's Next seeks to deliver inspirational, insightful tips for preparing for the next big thing in your life and putting his ability to motivate and bring out the best in people to use. He has also taken to performance coaching, working with the University of Louisville and a number of college athletes. Please join me in welcoming Eric Wood.
Thank you, Byron. On December 31st, 2017, the Buffalo Bills attempted to do the unthinkable. They were playing in the midst of the longest playoff drought in all of professional sports in North America, and they were traveling south to Miami with hopes to break that drought. The people in the national landscape thought this would be unthinkable. Before the season, the Buffalo Bills, with a new head coach and a new GM and new ownership, traded away the previous 3 first-round draft picks to accumulate draft capital and cap space for this run that they're now on as a franchise. But for those within the locker room, we had other plans for them. We set out to ruin their draft status and to prove all the national pundits wrong that we were in fact not tanking. We were not trying to lose and get the number 1 overall draft pick. So we headed down to Miami, and we needed a little help as well. We not only needed to beat the Dolphins down in Miami, but we needed the Ravens to lose at home to my hometown Cincinnati Bengals, who were already eliminated from the playoffs. To play in the longest professional sports playoff drought can be a bad feeling at times. It's 7 head coaches in 9 years, including 2 interims, and to be the longest tenured player within the organization is not a good feeling. Don't worry, that was not me. That was my friend Kyle Williams. I was the second longest. I was the second longest at that time, and I had just signed a contract extension before the season, so I was surely going to be eventually the longest tenured. So to be able to break this drought was going to be a monumental achievement for this franchise. We end up winning the game. Our defensive tackle, Kyle Williams, who I just mentioned, he scores a touchdown. We handed it off to him on the goal line. We beat them, and now we are scurrying into the locker room to figure out if the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be able to beat the Baltimore Ravens in their house. We all gather in the locker room in a dramatic fashion. Andy Dalton hits Tyler Boyd right down the seam to win the game and send us to the playoffs. I will never win a Super Bowl as a player. That is a fact, but we surely celebrated like we did that night. We looked like, I was passing by the casino earlier, you had the people sitting at the slot machine celebrating a big win, only we didn't have a whiskey sour and a cigarette in our mouth, but we did celebrate hard that night. And so that following week, we go to Jacksonville, Florida to play the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we lose 10-3. Real barn burner of a playoff game, but the mission was accomplished. We needed to get over that hump and get into the playoffs. And so following that game, I had two priorities. One was to take my exit physical and get cleared for the Pro Bowl, and then also drive back to Louisville as fast as possible because my wife was going to be induced 4 days later with the birth of our baby boy. And so step number one, got to get cleared for the Pro Bowl, which is fastly approaching in a couple weeks. And so every player in the NFL must pass an exit physical at the end of the season. Any injury that you don't disclose to the doctors, they are not liable for. The team's not liable for that after the season if you do not disclose that to them. And sometimes you may not disclose an injury during the season because a lot of guys on the team are in fear of losing their job every Monday. And so at the end of the season, you'll disclose maybe some of those injuries that you want the NFL to have to cover after your playing days. And so otherwise, you'll be on the non-football injury list if you report back in a few months when we all come back and gather and get ready for the off-season training. And so I go into this exit physical, and I was the only player on the team and one of only a few players in the NFL that season to play every single snap. And in the NFL, you can miss a snap for your shoe becoming untied, and you can't get it tied before the next snap, and you got to run off. You could be beating a team too bad. You could be losing too bad where they take out a few of the starters and don't want to risk injury to those guys. Or the injury rate in the NFL is 100%. And so some of those you can play through and some you can't. I was fortunate enough to play every single snap that entire season. So I walked in and said, hey, I am ready to drive home. Please clear me for the Pro Bowl. I'm getting the heck out of here. And they said, well, you got stingers this year. Let's get an MRI on your neck real quick. And I said, my high school buddies got stingers, and I'm preaching to the choir in here. This is an easy audience to explain stingers to, but a shot to the head or neck causes some numb and pain sensation throughout an extremity. For me, it was my right arm. I played center, so I snapped the football in each play. It would make that next snap occasionally pretty interesting when you could barely feel your right hand, but I played through it. And so for the first time in my life, I got these stingers, and so the Bills requested that I get an MRI, but they'll let me take it on my way out of town and let me drive back home. And so that is on Monday morning. On Thursday, January 11th, me and my wife are sitting in the delivery room, and I had caught wind that the MRI showed some concern, but with me playing every single snap that season, I thought, there is no way I need surgery, not another surgery. I've broken both my legs with both required surgeries. I've torn my ACL. Had a number of injuries. I had 6 lower body surgeries throughout my career. Surely I don't need surgery in a year that I didn't even miss a snap. And so we're sitting in the delivery room. It's 50 minutes before the birth of my son, and I get a call that would change my life and my career. The doctor called and said that at C2, C3, there's disc and bone sitting into the spinal cord. They're not sure if it's callousing or bruising and the extent of what the treatment will be from here, but absolutely no return to play. Your career is over. I looked at my wife. She could see the emotion on my face. I explained the situation as best as I can to her. I'll admit at the time I was far from a spine specialist, spine expert, and I still am not to this day, but I understand it a lot more than I had hoped to at this stage of my life. I explained the news to her. She starts crying. The nurse comes in and she says, honey, it's not going to hurt that bad. She said, it's not about the baby. And we laugh about it today. It wasn't quite as funny at the time. 50 minutes later, my son Garrett's born. He is a spitting image of me. You can go on my Instagram and confirm that. But he's a spitting image of me. So I have this healthy baby boy, but now I'm faced with a new career. My career is going to be over playing football, and I have to figure out what I'm going to do in this next chapter of life. I've heard it said that life starts after your first dream goes away. Life starts after your first dream goes away. So my dream was to play in the NFL. I got to live out that dream, but now it's gone away. So now life starts. Okay, what the heck does that mean? And so I stand up here today, to say thank you, not to feel sympathy for me. I could give you many, many reasons why I'm the luckiest man in this room standing up here today with a healthy and beautiful family, a fulfilling career path. Now I got to live out my dream of playing in the National Football League for 9 years. I got to be a captain for 5 years and lead an organization, create generational wealth for my family. And there are so many things I could give you of why I stand here as the luckiest person in this room. And so one, I want to say thank you. Thank you that I'm able to stand up here and deliver a message on 2 feet and breathe on my own and still be able to talk. So I say thank you for all of you in this room that dedicate your life to spinal cord injuries. So thank you for that. And then also, as I transitioned and I was there to find out what was next, I saw wisdom. Byron mentioned the podcast that I've run and the countless mentors. Some are in this room in the back. And so I sought advice from mentors on how do you take this next step in life, find something as fulfilling as playing the game of football. And so throughout that, I figured out that personal growth, personal development, and being able to impact others, use this platform to be able to impact others was going to be my next career path. I had a college coach, Bobby Petrino, and some of you, I know people from all around the country, maybe you know Bobby Petrino, but Bobby Petrino used to always tell us, you're either getting better in life or you're getting worse. There's no gray area. And he would relate it to football, and a lot of times there was expletives in there, but I find that to be true in life. And so as I craft the message, and we're sitting here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it's 9:40 or about 9:50 in the morning now, I figured I would let Ben Newman later give you the real pump-up speech as you go about your day. No judgment if people were at the tables late last night, maybe had a few drinks. It's worth celebrating big moments in life. It's worth getting together with colleagues and having some fellowship. But as a game was played about 2 weeks ago down the street that I believe many of you would have watched, and whether that was for the commercials in the halftime show or simply for the football game, I find it fitting that you can take takeaways from anything in life. So let's have a fun one with this last Super Bowl. Maybe find a few takeaways that we can apply to our business and in life. And so as I watched the game and I watched Patrick Mahomes win his 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years, I thought to myself, number one, the cream rises to the top. Kansas City starts off the season. They're at home. They're defending Super Bowl champions. They're going to play the first game of the season. It's a ring ceremony on the field, and they lose to the Detroit Lions. Their star player, Chris Jones, on defense, sits out of the game. There seems to be turmoil. They limp through the regular season. For the first time, and Patrick Mahomes being quarterback, they're not even in the top 16 on offense. They're not even in the top half of the league offensively, statistically. And they still get into the playoffs. They enter as the number 3 seed. So now they're not going to be able to play at home throughout the playoffs. This will be the first time that Patrick Mahomes is going to go on the road in the playoffs since being the starting quarterback with the Chiefs, which is remarkable. Well, they go, they beat the Dolphins, the high-flying Dolphins. They beat the snot out of them in the first round of the playoffs. They come to Buffalo. I'm on the call for the game, and I was extremely confident the Bills were going to get it done, that Josh Allen was going to be 1A, 1B with Patrick Mahomes, and they come in and they beat the Bills. They go to Baltimore, the number 1 overall seed. They beat them fairly easily, and then they go on to win the Super Bowl. And so it reminded me that the cream rises to the top. And so in life and in business, in your industry, I believe it's the habits. It's the daily habits that get you to that point where you are the cream that rises to the top, that you are the top of your profession year in and year out, and it's those daily habits that set the trajectory of your future. I've sat in the back for about an hour now, and I understand there's people a lot smarter than me in this room. And when I first heard that if you get 1% better each and every day, I thought, okay, well, at the end of the year, you're 365% better at the end of the year. Well, 3.5 times better at the end of the year, that didn't seem that appealing to me, but everyone's talking about this 1% rule. If you get 3.5% growth year over year, you're going to get fired from a Medtronics, a Stryker. Like you lose your job for that in this industry. And I hope that doesn't offend anybody. But 3.5 times doesn't sound that impressive, but when you look at it, 1% better of the day before and 1% better of that improved self, well, that's going to be 37 times better at the end of the year on compounding interest. So fight for those 1% daily improvements, and I see the Chiefs do that on a daily basis, and I see them get better as the year goes on, and that's how they rise to the top. Number two, my second takeaway from the game is that the details matter. And if you watch the game goes to overtime, and there's new overtime rules. The new overtime rules in the playoffs came into effect 2021. The Bills are playing at the Chiefs in one of the most exciting games in playoff history, and the game ends on a touchdown pass about 3 minutes into overtime to Travis Kelce, and league officials thought we need more time. So in the future, they extended the overtime rule, so each team's going to get a possession. And so Kansas City, for 2 weeks, had been rehearsing, visualizing, talking about what they were going to do in overtime. They continually were talking about if San Francisco takes the ball, and even if they score a touchdown, we're going to march right back down there, and we're going to go for 2. Conversely, when you look at the details, Kyle Shanahan, who I have a lot of respect for as a head coach, he likes to receive. The analytics would probably tell you that you should kick off, but that's besides the point. But he had multiple players after the game say in press conferences, and these are intelligent players, one of them being an Ivy League graduate, say that they didn't even know the overtime rules. This is the biggest game of the season, likely the biggest game of many of these guys' careers, and they didn't even know the details. They didn't know the rules to overtime, and it ends up costing them a Super Bowl victory likely. And so when I look at details in life, and I'm a huge golf fan. I got to play yesterday out here in Vegas, and I'm a huge fan of the PGA Tour. I'm even a fan of the LIV Tour. But the most dominant stretch in PGA Tour history, and this isn't a debate who's better, Tiger or Jack or whoever, but the most dominant stretch in PGA Tour history was from 2002 to 2005. Most top tens, most wins, most majors, and that's Tiger Woods. And when you go back and look at all of the statistics, it's not the driving distance, it's not how he strikes his irons, it's not how he chips. The most staggering statistic, the biggest margin he had on the rest of the PGA Tour at the time was putts made from 3 feet or less. During that time, Tiger had 1,540 putts from 3 feet or less, and he only missed 4. The next closest was in the 30s, most people closer to 50, and then many into the hundreds. He missed 4. Tiger was the most dominant player over a period of time in PGA Tour history simply because of the little things. So I would urge you, as you look at yourself and your career, your health, your relationships, what are those small details, those little things that can make the big difference in the end that can help you be the most successful version of yourself that you can. So, number 1, the cream rises to the top. Number 2, the details matter. Number 3, it's not over till it's over. It's not over till it's over. The Kansas City Chiefs looked like they were going to lose that entire game. Heck, at some points of the season, it didn't even look like they were going to make the playoffs. Instead, they come out as Super Bowl champs again, and you must focus that in life, it's not over till it's over. And so when you look at whether right now, career-wise, you're in the exact spot you want to be, I would urge you, don't put it on cruise control. Continue to take those next steps to thrive, to take that next step in your development to make the biggest impact that you can. And if you're not in that spot, if you're not in that place you want to be, it's not over till it's over. You can still make that progress in your life. Those 1% daily habits that we talked about earlier, to move that needle, those daily wins and stacking those wins will make a massive impact in the end. And so Tony Robbins famously said, the ultimate fulfillment is in the growth. Those are 3 ways and 3 takeaways that we can get to kind of get that ultimate fulfillment and get that growth. One of the reasons that the news of the neck injury was so impactful for me, and when I got to see that MRI and I'm looking at the disc and the bone into my spinal cord, and there's literally no spinal fluid in that area of the spinal column. Part of the reason that hit me so hard is when they explained what would happen if there was callousing there and it got worse, was that at C2, C3, that's loss of respiratory function and paraplegia. My little brother Evan was born 3 years after me, and he was born with severe cerebral palsy. He never walked on his own. He never talked on his own. He was in a wheelchair his whole life. He never ate solid food for the 11 years that he was alive. So I had a visual of what that looked like. The thought of my mom having to have another son in a wheelchair and live like that was terrifying. It struck me. Well, when I stand up here before and I say thank you because of the impact you had on me and what this impact now has on everybody else. It's a butterfly effect in life that when you create an impact on somebody, you often aren't able to recognize the trickle-down effect of what else that comes into play there. And so in the last 5 years, in my little brother's honor in Western New York, we've raised millions of dollars, and that includes COVID year where you can't even have an event. We've raised millions of dollars for families that have chronically ill and severely disabled children in the Western New York area. Every family gets Christmas paid for that has a child at the hospital. And because of the impact of individuals like yourselves in this room, we've been able to make that impact in my little brother's name. And so, again, I say thank you. At the bottom of my stationery reads a line from Jackie Robinson, and it says, "A life's not important except in the impact it has on others' lives." Many people like yourselves have made a tremendous impact on my life, so I want to leave you with this encouragement to continue doing what you're doing and continue to strive to be the best version of yourself each and every day, because the impact that you're having goes far beyond the individual patient and just their family. Thank you.